Now, potholes, which is what we asked you to come in and talk about, because driving down, or at least Aileen was driving, as I was usual, in the passenger seat, but all the way down as far as Mitchelstown, wonderful road, all the way from down to Dublin. Then you go onto the Mitchelstown to Mallow Road, and the Mallow down to Killarney Road. And at one stage we did hit a pothole at a fair degree of speed. You've done a survey recently, haven't you, says that an awful lot of motorists are reporting hitting potholes.
That's right. Now, this is part of the AA Motorists panel, which we do periodically through the year, and we actually get 12,000 motorists responding to it. And we asked them on this occasion, hey, have you hit a pothole in the last month? And the vast majority of motorists, and in fact in Munster 91% of motorists said that they had hit a pothole in the last month. Now there's potholes and potholes. In some cases that's a crumbling road surface and that's slippy and deteriorating, and in other cases you're talking about a
proper hole where you suddenly and you hit it and bang.
Absolutely. And you see them opening up all over the place. The reason why it's worse this year, to state the obvious, is the big freeze that we had through the winter months, and a lot of the roads have essentially crumbled up like bread crust, and it's a problem that we're only beginning to see now, because the winter's come and gone, spring has arrived, but when it lashes rain in Ireland, as we can be absolutely sure it will do, a lot of the secondary road network will erode out from under us very, very rapidly unless corrective repairs are carried out. It's not just a question of this being sort of a slightly worse year than normal. We've actually had fairly catastrophic damage to the secondary road network in the course of the winter, and if we don't fix it, it will become progressively more expensive to fix it as the months and years go by.
Stick on your headphones there, because we've got Councillor Brendan Leahy with us, who's the Mayor of Skibbereen down in West Cork. Brendan was on late last year with us, and earlier this year in relation to flooding in West Cork. Hello to you, Brendan. How are you?
Hi. How's it on?
Very good. Brendan, what state have the roads been left in after the flooding and then the snow and everything?
Roads in West Cork in general are in applicable state. Now there are some repairs being done and we welcome those, but the roads in general, especially the secondary and the general countryside roads, are in an awful state.
And what has been done about repairs?
Very little repairs. I mean, it's unfortunately not council's fault. The money is not there. I mean, I think as a council, it's very hard to be a councillor and people say, my road, what's wrong with my road? My road needs this, there's holes there, there's everything. But unfortunately, there's no funding there for it. And so, I mean, if the government are serious, they should allocate money from central government to the local councils and county councils and reinstate our roads. Cork County is one of the biggest counties in which maybe the largest of motor tax, but we don't have the road network to show it. As you were just speaking to the previous speaker, saying the road down to Mitchelstown, I have no doubt it's beautiful, but if you drive from Cork down to West Cork, down to Gauleen, the roads are atrocious.
And what other budget does Cork County Council have this year, and how then do they make decisions as how to allocate the budget across such a big county?
That's the difficult thing, because across the county, especially in the western area, every area was hit, by the bad freeze, as we'll say, and other areas didn't much flooding, and so it's very hard to budget and very hard to spread out the funding that's given to cover every area. It's just not possible.
Okay, thank you very much, Brendan Leahy, Mayor of Skibbereen and West Cork. Conor Faughnan, the sort of damage that's done by hitting a pothole, I mean, it may be obvious, but just take us through the sort of the typical consequences to a car of hitting a pothole.
Okay, well, the first thing that could happen is a blowout. In other words, you'll puncture your tyre, and you could also possibly dent the wheel rim. But you're then looking at damage to tracking systems, for example, or wheels knocked out of alignment. And for some modern cars, they have very sophisticated systems like ABS and electronic stability control. They can be damaged if you hit a pothole, a belt, and you could then be looking at a significant repair, perhaps 1,500 or £2,000 worth of repair to your car. The other thing that'll catch a lot of people out is alloy wheels. Alloy wheels look beautiful, but they tend to have thinner tyres on them than normal wheels, and they are very expensive to repair. They also crack rather than denting. So if you do damage to an alloy wheel, in theory you might only have damaged one out of the 4 wheels in your car, but you've got to replace it with an alloy. So it can be expensive. And I suppose at the maximum extent, ultimately you could have cars written off for crashes caused or even fatalities caused. But I think rather than be alarmist about it, to look at what generally does occur. If people hit a pothole, a wallop, the chances are they'll do some damage to their suspension, they might do some damage to their steering alignment, and of course there's every chance that they'll do damage to the wheel or to the tyre.
Okay, you pay road tax, motor tax, to be on the road, to use the roads. It's your payment towards the upkeep of the roads. So, as you honour your part of that contract, and the vast majority of people do, what do you get in return if the road is not kept in the condition that damages your car?
Yeah, yes, indeed. Well, we've always argued that we don't get enough for our road tax, but to be fair about it for a moment, no amount of road tax collected, and certainly not in this day and age, gives local authorities some sort of magic wand whereby they can guarantee you a pristine surface. One of the problems we have in Ireland is we've 97,000 kilometres of road in Ireland, and that's 6,500 kilometres of that is the main road network, motorways and end roads, and they're actually pretty good now. I mean, they compare reasonably well to our European colleague countries. But we've got 90,000 kilometres of second level, third level and local minor roads. Now that's a much higher proportion than almost any other European country. Nobody can give you a promise that, you know, because of the tax sticker on your windscreen that all of those roads will be perfect. So it's a question of degree. I mean, a lot of money has been spent on our road network in recent times, and it has improved a lot. But there will always be, at least as far as any of us can realistically foresee, it'll always be the case in Ireland that minor roads and local roads are going to be dodgy. And, you know, there are some countries that have roads that are actually classed as seasonal. It wouldn't surprise me.
It's not just the minor roads now at this stage, it's the secondary roads, which is the problem. You can actually see the physical deterioration in them because of the weather we had.
Yeah,
and it just seems that we're just like, there's almost like, well, the country's broke, the government's broke, it can't do anything about them.
The country's not that broke. I mean, let's be realistic about it. I mean, the country is not that broke. And you're right, and some of what is classed as secondary road are actually very, very important links. I mean, they, you know, for all intents and purposes, part of a primary
They're the only road.
They're the only road for a start. So for reasons of social inclusion and local economy, etc. Also, like, no matter how broke you are, I mean, if you, like most of the population, if you've taken a tax hit and a salary hit in the last 12 months, and you might have cancelled foreign holidays and never felt so broke, nevertheless, if your roof leaks, you fix it, because you know that if you don't fix it, it's going to cost you more money next year. You're not saving any money by putting off inevitable and necessary repairs. And although we've got a lot of road in Ireland, and some of it will always be minor, we also have significant stretches of road where you can see the damage that's been done on them, and every month that passes without those roads being properly repaired, you know, broke or not broke, we're actually just worsening the bill for ourselves in the end.
Got to read some of the comments that are coming into 0834100 Try hitting a pothole on a motorbike, says one listener.
Or on a push bike. Or on a push bike, which I've done. Yeah, I mean, they can be desperately hazardous. And one of the things we're saying to motorists this summer, as we all go driving around the country, and much more driving is done, do not trust the secondary road networks and never speed into a bend. It might look lovely, next bend in the road could have a disaster.
Ron in Whitehall in Dublin says there's a pothole on Hanover Street East, just off Cardiff Lane, that must be nearly 1.5 feet deep, absolutely lethal. The council keep filling it with tarmac at it. My Vespa threw me off when I went into it one morning. Luckily there were no cars about. My father once put cement into a hole that was not being filled on the Swords Road. It was very deep. He got cautioned by the Gardaí. That was over 10 years ago, and the hole is still there. It's a disgrace, says Ron. Let's try a few more. A pothole cost me €2,000. I tried to claim from the council, but they said it was my own problem. The suspension was destroyed, and the assessor said that my car, which was a Laguna, they were known to have faulty suspensions, says Susan from Clonmel. Couldn't say that.
That's a bit of a stretch. I had a Red Laguna myself at one stage. It's not an untypical story, and one of the things we're often asked is, can we sue the council? And see, you have to be very cautious giving that sort of response, and you need legal advice before you even consider it. But it's like I say, it's a question of degree. If you can try and establish or claim that a council was negligent, then that's one thing. But you can't hold a council responsible for wear and tear. We have had a once in 43 or 47 year winter, whatever it was this year, and realistically we cannot hold a council directly legally liable for every pothole that occurs on the road on foot of that. It's simply not practical. We wouldn't have local authorities at all. But by the same token, we can't make excuses for them and let them simply wash their hands of it and say they're broke.
John in Cavan says car tax is a joke. I got my car NCT done this year, and since then I've had 2 two big potholes in Navan and Cavan. The first one cost me €100 for a tyre. The second one cost me €300 for a tyre and a new alloy. And yet I need to pay for tax and NCT, so my car is fit for the road, but yet the bloody roads aren't fit for the cars, says John. Listeners as well saying that I was lucky that I went on the Mallow to Mitchelstown Road, or Mitchelstown to Mallow, that if you go the Fermoy to Mallow Road, then it's an absolute disgrace, they say, with the amount of potholes. Dave in Wexford says, never mind hitting potholes, we in parts of Wexford haven't had road in months. That's coming up with a few text messages saying that the road is practically eroded and hasn't been fixed in some parts of Wexford.
There are actually quite a few locations, and one of the ones in Wexford was famously was on the news at the time of the flooding. The road had basically disappeared. I mean, it was like looking at footage from an earthquake zone. It had literally eroded away. And some of those roads, clearly, it's not a question of filling potholes. The road needs to be re-engineered and reconstructed. And clearly we'd like to see all of that happen. Practically speaking, some of those roads are going to be in the queue for quite some time.
Cavan Hill Road in Donegal has over 200 potholes in 1.6 kilometre stretch, says one listener. Conor Faughnan of the AA, thank you very much for taking the time to join us on the programme.